Hi there, welcome. And I'd like to introduce Kate Llewellyn. So, hi, Kate.
Hello.
How are you this afternoon? It's really good. This is nice to have a recordings. Not quite as nice as we've had. I'm looking out the window over there just to get.
Yeah, no, the weather's rather turned, doesn't it? It wasn't quite so bad over the bank holiday,
No,
I bet,
no,
when we
indeed,
thought, but
indeed, indeed. But as we're very British, we'll try and cut the weather conversation to. Although I started it. First things first. I love to hear in this the sort of origin. I call it the origin story. It's not a term that I made up myself. I nicked it very much from a comic book superhero type sort of theme. I love the idea of for those people in like Superman and his journey from wherever he came from, and Spider-Man and his. So I love an origin story. It also sets you in context of how you got there, and people love a story. So, without sort of spending too much time, what is your story? Why do you do what you do? And introduce yourself to the people who've not come across you
thank
before.
you, Mark. Yeah, sure. So my name is Kate Llewellyn. I run what is now called the Content Consultancy. But I actually started out, my background sort of university-wise was doing English language and linguistics. And whilst I did my master's at Oxford University, which was an absolutely amazing experience, I did a little bit of work experience for the OED. At Oxford University Press. And I thought, yeah, this is the way I want to go into publishing, perhaps lexicography itself, so dictionaries and things like that. Fast forward a little bit, and I ended up getting a really fab job at a international academic publisher called Macmillan, the arm of which I was working in was called Palgrave. And I started there as an assistant editor, and I worked my way up to a commissioning editor, and life was good. And I thought, I'm pretty happy on this career path. I was doing undergraduate textbooks most of the time for social work and nursing and health and social care more broadly. And yeah, I was very, very happy. I was dealing with books, and back in those days, it was actually physical books, although we were starting to get into the world of ebooks, which was also very exciting. Then they made this announcement that they were moving the offices from Basingstoke, which was where I lived relatively near to at the time, up to King's Cross, so North London. So not necessarily the worst news in the world, but it obviously did mean quite a different change of lifestyle. I would be commuting every day, etc. And at any other stage of life, this might have been okay. But I literally had, when they made the announcement, found out I was pregnant about a week before. All very happy news. But yeah, I just suddenly thought, no, this is not how I want my working life to be. I thought, commuting that far and all of obviously the childcare and stuff that would have gone with it. So the actual move took a couple of years or so to arrange, but when it did, I decided to take voluntary redundancy and actually have my second child shortly after. So here I am, stay-at-home mum, little bit of redundancy pay, and I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. So I thought I would freelance for a little while. So freelancing in publishing is very common. A lot of publishing houses will use freelancers, and I actually ended up working back for Oxford University Press and doing a little bit of work on their dictionaries, which was brilliant and really suited, home working and just a few hours a week. Fast forward another year or so, and I was starting to think, well, the children are growing up. They're sort of attending things like play school and nursery, and I'm getting a little bit of more time. The youngest was, also being taken care of, and the eldest is going off to school relatively soon. What am I going to do next? And I went along to a sort of local business owner meetup just in the village where I live. So this was not a big networking event by any extent. And people started talking to me about, oh, I'm a beautician, or I own a shop. and I need to have like a Facebook page, don't I? I've heard of this thing called Facebook, it's, you know, blah, blah, blah. Or, oh, I think I need a website. I think I need to write something on websites. You know, have you heard about this? I was like, yeah, you know, my career in publishing had meant I'd done a little bit of social media, and obviously I'd actually worked, you know, on websites and web pages for the individual books and things like that. So I had a little bit of background knowledge about marketing more broadly. And then I even had people come to me sort of say, oh, you know, I need to write a leaflet, or I want to do a price list. And this all came from this one meeting. And I thought, you know, I could do that. I enjoy writing. What can I do? And that is where the content consultancy was born. So I was just working as a bit of a freelancer, sort of a little bit of money, just doing a little bit of copywriting here and there. And more local businesses asked me if I could help them with their social media, with their blog writing, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Amazing. And I love the and this is always with these stories, how it sort of takes a little bit of a nice windy journey from where you started off, and very few people end up where they started off, or are still where they started off, and it's lovely to hear that. I quite enjoy the idea of you standing there and saying, oh, those people are asking for me to help them anyhow, because so often people start their businesses not knowing what people want. So
yeah, exactly. Because I sort of went down as I'm a freelancer working in publishing, thinking I don't really know what I thought, you know, anyone was there to write a book. But yeah, it turned out that actually it was that kind of smaller content that people were interested in. And yeah, I swiftly found that actually I really enjoyed it. And what a lot of business owners, they don't. You know, they don't enjoy promoting themselves. They don't enjoy having to talk about what they do all the time. They just want to do the doing. And yeah, it was a really nice synergy that I found something that, yeah, I enjoyed and was helping other people.
And is that what you do? You mentioned up front the content club as well. Where
Yes.
does that fit in?
Okay. So yeah, there is kind of a next step. So the content consultancy, first of all, was just very much all about offering content writing and more broadly digital marketing services to individual businesses. And I had the classic business model of working with companies on kind of retainer, you know, that kind of thing, doing lots of stuff very regularly for a few number of businesses. And then again, you know, I'm sure a lot of people can understand that COVID came along, and with homeschooling on one hand, and also some of my wonderful clients, no fault of their own, just lost their income streams overnight. And so not only did we not have a lot to say in terms of the marketing, but they just didn't have the money to pay me. And it was completely understandable. And as I say, with that mix of me having a reduced amount of time as well, what was I going to do? And what I found was what happened was a lot of the clients I had really great relationships with. So I was continuing to follow them and trying to support them through this difficult time. And I just realized I can't help people for free, sadly, all of the time. And also there were more and more people out there that I could help, but obviously there's only one of me. So I can't create every single person's social media post. I can't create everyone's content. So the Content Club was born. So this obviously the rise of sort of Zoom and online courses and, you know, the world opening up through the pandemic because of that. And I very much jumped on that bandwagon, basically. And so I started, an online membership called the Content Club, with the idea originally very much to teach people how to do their own marketing, how to create their own content. And that still is part of the club. But actually, what I've realized is that we've taken another step forward in that actually a lot of people know how to post. They, you know, they can do that kind of stuff, but it's the planning of it, and therefore the consistency of keeping going, and also the confidence to do it, that kind of sense of, oh, Kate, I don't know really what to write. No one cares what I've got to say. And so actually the club now is a lot about, we have 2 monthly clinics, and a lot of it is about, you know, talking about, yes, you do have something to say and we are interested, and no, we don't know anything about that, even though you think you're an expert and you just, oh yeah, I know, you know, everyone knows that. And telling people, reminding them that actually people really don't know what you know, and you need to share that. So yeah, the Content Club now consists of content clinics, as I say, where we can drop in and get ideas and share ideas, and it's become a really nice community. And then we also do quarterly planning sessions. So that's a 2-hour co-working session where we plan out 3 months of content, so that we have something to follow, we have something to check in on at the clinics, and it really does help that consistency and confidence when you see the results of that.
I love that, and you're so right. There's a nice wide range of some people for whom they're completely adrift. They've no idea where to start. They don't know what to do, and in that case, going there and doing it for them is a great support. And then there are those who just like I said, need to be reminded that they do know what they're talking about. They do have some understanding. People do want to hear what they say. People do need, and not just want, need to hear what they say.
Yeah.
Because I know from experience there are a lot of people for whom have got a huge raft of experience and expertise that is just sitting behind. Yeah, everyone knows that sort of comment, and exactly what you said. Not everyone does.
No. And actually, I always say to people, even if I read something and went, oh, I know that, you don't then go, right, that's it. I'm not following that person ever again. I can't believe they told me something I already know. Or flip side, actually, most of us will go, oh, I did know that, but that's great to have it sort of reinforced. That person's an expert and they've just reinforced what I thought I already knew. And now I definitely know it. And in this day and age, anything changes so much. So to have kind of, subject experts in your life, in your news feed is really, really important, because they're the ones who can stay abreast of, what's happening, what's changing. And, we can almost ride their coattails by, consuming their content.
Absolutely, and I presume you come across people for whom, yeah, it takes a while. It takes people saying the same thing 3, 4, 5 times before it really hits in their head and think, oh yes, there is that. And so just because, I mean, I come across, just because you've said something yesterday doesn't mean you don't need to say it again tomorrow or the day after or even a month down the line, because people may have seen it and come across it and stumbled across it and nodded, like you say, oh yeah, that's right, and moved on. But it just in, out, floating away in the ether. They need to be
Oh,
reminded.
hugely. And if you think like just social media as a good example, you've got, first of all, the algorithm. So even someone who follows you may not well see what you put out. We often get new followers. So again, that person may never have seen any of your content before. So, it's a chance for them to see it, even though you feel like you're posting it again, it's brand new for them. And exactly as you said, sometimes you see something and it just doesn't resonate that time, or you're not at the same stage of business or life or whatever it is that, your business or service is offering that person. They're not in the right place or the right time. And then they see that content again, they hear that suggestion, recommendation, whatever it might be, and this time it lands. So yeah, there's never any harm. And actually one of my big tips is always with content to look at ways that you can reuse and repurpose content as much as possible, because yeah, there are lots of different audiences at different stages that are going to see it.
Absolutely, and I talked recently in this with a lady. You may come across it. You may even know a Wanda Varga. Come across, and she's a big proponent of revisiting books, revisiting stuff, because you are a different person when you read them again. So there may be something you pick differently out with it. And on the flip side of that, the people you're talking to, just because they've heard it and listened to it and took it on board once, doesn't mean when you say it again, they're not at a slightly different time to pick up other subtle nuances.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. So yeah, definitely, it's really, and it's hard because I know from seeing people on the other side of this, they feel they're just, I'm saying the same thing time and time again. Am I not getting boring?
Yeah, and it really knocks your confidence as well. It's those limiting thoughts, isn't it? It's that self-doubt. It's the, yeah, am I boring? Will people think this is all I've got to say? Or, and also sometimes we don't get the interaction or the engagement that we were hoping for. A lot of our digital marketing, it does feel like we're just putting stuff out there and it's being ignored. And you don't know, because there probably people are reading it and they are absorbing it. But again, we don't always get the likes or the comments that we were hoping. And yeah, so it can really knock your confidence. And that's why, stepping back, and part of the club is all about this, stepping back, putting that plan in place, really having a true focus on what are you trying to achieve with your content, and then almost having that kind of overriding belief that whether I get a like, whether I get the engagement numbers I wanted, I know why I'm doing this, the purpose of why I'm doing this. And it does turn into you reaching your goal, your marketing, your sales budgets, your sales goals, or whatever it might be. It really does. But you've got to stick at it long enough and keep that confidence and keep that kind of belief in why you're doing what you're doing. And again, the club is there to hopefully offer that reassurance, and for me to be that cheerleader that goes, yes, yes, we're doing this for a really good reason.
Absolutely. And I like that idea of you having a purpose for what you're writing, because so easily, as you've alluded to, you could be writing stuff and it doesn't appear to move the needle in any way, shape, or thing. You get no likes, you get very few engagements, your leads and sales are not moving. But if you've got a purpose, then you know that you're doing it for a reason, because then people
and
get.
if you
Go
yeah
on.
go on.
No, I
I
was
was just
going
going
to
to say, because also flip side, if you don't, it's also really hard to measure whether you have got any success or not. If it was a straight sales post and the purpose was to sell, and whether you have sold or not sold, that's quite a good place to start, whether you're, when you're measuring. But if you're just putting out content because you feel like you should, people say, oh, I have to post once a day. And I'm like, okay, but like why? And what is each of those bits of content going to achieve? Oh, I don't know. I just, what I just put out wherever I thought. It's not necessarily a bad strategy in terms of getting up your confidence of putting out stuff regularly. But like you said, to not then know whether it's achieved what you wanted it to or not. And obviously, there can be lots of things that we're trying to achieve with our marketing. It's not always a sale. It might be visibility. It might be awareness. It might be growing that know, like, and trust. And again, when you have assigned that purpose to the content that you're creating, it's so much easier to then ask the people that hopefully do get in touch, that do engage. Did that resonate? Did that work? Did that make me feel, make you feel like this or like that, which was what the purpose of your content was. And yeah, it makes it so much easier to measure, and makes it a lot more tangible to measure as well, rather than just a number on an insights page or whatever.
Absolutely, and I like the way that you help these people for whom their only goal was, someone has told me I need to post 5 times a week on social media or Facebook. I need to post on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram, and I need to do it, and I don't know why. Having someone like you or the group or community to behind you to say, well, okay, fair enough, but what are these pieces of post purpose for? Because people just think, I just need to post, but you don't. You need to post for a reason, and
Yeah,
sometimes they don't know what that is.
absolutely. No, and that's really common. And that, if you're a small business owner out there and you're hearing this, I don't beat yourself up, because I think we get very much into that silo of, I need to do marketing, I need to do sales, I need to do my accountancy, my admin, we sort of end up like that. And actually, exactly, it's about bringing it back and going, content creation needs to be just part of this pathway of you moving your audience along, moving your clients along, your customers along, even your business along, if you're looking to develop or grow and that kind of stuff. And again, I think it works really nicely that then gives you way more kind of motivation to make that content, because you can see how it fits into the bigger picture, and maybe like an overall strategy. And yeah, I am a big proponent of actually sort of knocking social media off its pedestal in terms of it being like there just for the purpose of posting on it. Does that make sense? You see it as a tool. It is just another tool in our arsenal. It is, I sometimes liken it to the village notice board, or or once upon a time. It's about just popping things out there, letting people know what you're up to, and don't sort of give it too much sort of gravitas. And people really worry about posting that, there's a lot of anxiety around it. I know a lot of people that will craft a really beautiful, authentic post and then edit it down, and some people even won't even post it at all. Their anxiety, their worries, we talked about, people thinking, oh, I've got nothing to say, gets to the point where they post nothing at all, or as I say, they edit it down into something that just sort of loses its real meaning and real sense and purpose, because of their concerns and stuff. And that makes me really sad, because it doesn't need to be that way.
No, absolutely. And I would also imagine in the busy world, sometimes they see other people saying similar things or other things that they should, and they feel, well, they're listening to them, they're listening to other people, but you forget that there's not it's not the case. Just because you are, they're not necessarily, and just because these people are shouting loud doesn't mean they're getting heard. Whereas your voice is going to be different. Whatever you say is always going to be different. I suppose that's something you come across as well, do you, in the group?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, I've used, even in my own business, I'm not a content writer for everyone.
Mm.
I've got as much as I will adapt my tone and my style, and obviously will try to take on your voice. It's the same with graphic designers are a good example, even accountants, everyone, they all met necessarily on paper have the same skill set, maybe have the same qualifications, even the number of years of experience. But we work with people, don't we? We work with individuals, and there'll be that click, there'll be that connection. And so again, even if you are sort of saying the same as everyone else, you'll be saying it in a way that is unique to you, and your ideal client out there will connect with you, even if, like I say, on paper those skills or qualifications are exactly the same. It's why we have competition, right? It's why we have multiple companies all doing the same thing, because there's something in there, there's a nuance, there's that USP, there's that connection that our ideal clients will they will find in us and want to work with us, and often the feeling will be mutual as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I did. We talked about accountants, and someone gave me some really good advice a while back. That if you can't take someone you're working with and go and have a cup of coffee with them, or a pint or whatever like that, and spend some social time with them, then you've probably got the wrong accountant, bookkeeper, or content writer, etc. If you can't have that kind of level of content, and that comes from seeing their content or seeing who
Oh,
they are.
absolutely. I mean, I don't know who it is actually. I should find the source of the quote, but I read a really great quote once about no one knows how good your business is before they buy from you. They only know how good your marketing is.
Ah,
And it's
yes.
so true, isn't it? We part with our hard-earned cash following a series of kind of content consumption and
Yep.
marketing messages. And so again, going back to that kind of being confident in what you offer, it's where making sure that your content and your marketing is really authentic to what you offer. Then that person will have a wonderful marketing experience from you, and then they'll hopefully have a wonderful customer experience from you as well. But it is a really good reminder that, that is the kind of only weapon, I suppose, we've got it to start with. But yeah, when we do it from a place of authenticity and confidence in what we offer, then it will be plain sailing.
Yes. And I would imagine one of the challenges that you talked a bit about, sort of having a purpose, and your planning, and your checking afterwards. And your regular meetings. Uh, what else? Because consistency is one of the buzzwords people mention. When they talk about social media and content, be consistent. What sort of little tips and tricks do you have for people to keep themselves consistent, apart
Yeah,
from
sure.
joining the
So
content club?
yeah, well, indeed, join the content club, and you'll get lots of support and to do that. But my main one is, I actually tell people to set a minimum content commitment. So this is just I need a better phrase, Mark. So if you've got one, but I keep saying a back of a fag packet, which is a horrible phrase in this day and age. But like, grab a serviette, or actually, genuinely, grab three post-it notes, and just write down what content you're going to create on a weekly, monthly, and then perhaps something like quarterly or even annually sort of basis. And the idea is that you get to a number. This is holidays hit, you're not feeling very well, work, your actual business, the work you've got to do is crazy. What could you, whether it's scheduling it in or creating ad hoc, but that you could absolutely stick to. And this could be as little as one post a week on your, what I call your hero social media platform. So I always say to people, have one that you absolutely love, that you're going to go all in on, that you like to hang out there, you like to engage, as well as you like to post on there. And then you might have some other social media platforms where you cross post, or you post less regularly. And then you can do that, as I say, on a weekly, monthly, and quarterly basis. And just see how you go for sort of 3 to 6 months. And this is not to stop any authentic posts. It's not to stop any, oh yeah, I've just been to a networking event and I'd love to put out, a social media post about it. They can count as one of your minimum content commitments, or you can say, no, I'm going to schedule in those one post a week that I've committed to, and then anything extra is a bonus. And that's fine. And what this really does is it straight away puts a boundary around how much content should I create, which I think is a big thing for a lot of people. They never feel like it's enough. They always, oh, if I just done more. But if we can just set that minimum content commitment, you have a sort of a line in the sand, as I call it. Now, 2, 3, 6 months later, if we can then look back and go, well, have we managed to stick to that minimum content commitment, or do we keep falling short? In which case, perhaps we need to bring it down a bit. Perhaps we overcommitted in the first place. If we have managed to stick to it, what about then going back to purpose and goals? Has it helped us achieve what we wanted it to? Now, if it hasn't, was that because we weren't doing enough, or maybe we weren't doing enough of a certain marketing activity, sending more emails, writing another blog, or was it that actually maybe we're still doing too much because we're totally overwhelmed and the stuff is just being shoved out there? We're sort of getting overwhelmed and it's not the best quality it could be. So actually, maybe even still, when it's not achieving what we want it to, we could do a bit less and do better quality and have more thought around it, or whatever it might be. So there's lots of things that we can then use to improve and to carry on. And obviously the absolute best case scenario, 3 to 6 months down the line, and you go, do you know what? Yeah, I'm nailing my minimum content commitment. I'm getting all of the sales that I need. I'm winning at life. So that is, that's just one. And it sounds so simple, but it really can make a big difference, because again, it's that echo chamber we get into of post more, do this, you're not doing enough, you should have done, oh, that's why, and actually just making that commitment to you and to your business, that's what you're going to try and achieve, can be really, really powerful, I think, to take away the overwhelm.
No, and I love that, and the minimum content commitment, I think that's for me, that sounds like a great little phrase. It's an easy, rolls off the tongue. It's got a nice MCC if you're a cricket fan.
MCC, yeah. You'll hear me talk about my MCC. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So no, I think you're on a winner with that little acronym or phrase. So don't change it, I would say, in some respects. The other thing is, I love the spirit of experimentation. Try it, see what happens, and we can modify it if it's not working, or you even potentially feel, well, I'm doing this okay, I could add an extra one.
And I genuinely have evidence of that happening quite a lot. So I have people that say, right, I'm going to only post once a month on LinkedIn, and once a week on LinkedIn, and I'm going to send out an email once a month. And they're like, that is it. That's my, they almost like challenge me to sort of go, and I go, okay, great, yeah, let's do that. Because before that, they would have maybe done 3 or 4 posts for about 2 weeks, and then they did nothing at all because they got out of the system, and then the brain overtook the heart or whatever on what they should be doing. And then again they did another few posts in 1 week, and then they went quite, and that inconsistency, both not so much for their audience but for themselves, was causing so much stress and anxiety. Whereas when they set this absolutely tiny minimum content commitment of just 1 post a week, they could sit down and schedule all 4 in one session, and I say, write this email and get it out. And then what's really funny is sort of 2 things. One, obviously, they maintain that consistency. So they started to get sort of inquiries and things because their messaging was really clear and they knew what they were doing. But secondly, they actually end up posting more because they'd be like, oh, well, that's done now. So, oh, okay. And, the sort of the pressure came off, and they would feel much more relaxed. And it was always like, if I post extra, it's a bonus.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how that feeling, that reduction of pressure, meant that they actually ended up possibly on average sort of posting more like 2 or 3 times a week. But, those couple of extras were always sort of very authentic and in the moment. And again, that was lovely because it came across in their content, and it makes for much better posts in most cases.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. It is a good idea to start where you are. Start with what's achievable. And you can always, you can always go up, you can always go down, generally. But I like that idea of experimenting. Putting a purpose, you're going to try it, suck it, and see. And at the end of it, let's see what we can do, and revisiting it, because that's another one of the, in my mind, one of the tricks is do revisit it and check it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, the quarterly planning sessions, we have quite a standard agenda for exactly that. And so we always start by first of all, we just look back at the 3 months before, how we got on, what we did, make sure we've recorded everything in our plan. So we know we've got a great plan, because, your future self in a year is going to love you, because you're going to look back and go, oh, what did I do this time last year? Oh, brilliant. I'll use those ideas again. Yes. And then the other bit of it is, funny enough, we do exactly that. We then all check in with our MCC, and then we make sure that is still serving us. And again, looking back at that last 3 months, did we hit it? Did we keep missing it? Did we overachieve? Where are we? And then obviously in line with our goals, again, is it doing what we want it to do? And then we can move forward to planning the next quarter, either using the same MCC or the adjusted if it feels right. And it's really funny how it's literally a 10-minute exercise in most cases. Most people are like either yes, no, or oh yeah, I'll give that a try. and the decision is made. But yeah, as you say, so important to just keep checking in.
Yeah. And I've just recently had a conversation on with someone else around this same sort of topic, and also looking back is something we don't do often enough.
Oh.
We have a habit of standing where we are, looking at the mountain we've got to climb, rather than the mountains we've already climbed, and having that regular stop, like you said, for your quarterly planning to look back. How did we do? What did we achieve? And sort of celebrating. We did achieve. Which is so often we don't do.
And going full circles, what we talked about, like back towards the beginning, again, it's like an opportunity to go, yeah, look at all this content I have created. And, I have people who've been with me, for over a year or so. And we look back, and again, like this time last year, I created this blog on this, and I wrote this email on this, and we use that, I could repurpose that. And exactly, it is a great opportunity. We don't always need to be sort of looking forward and creating new. And actually, what's really lovely is when often, especially with content, when we look at something fresh that we've created in the past, we can often polish it, right? We can nurture it, we can make it better. And actually, I think there's something to be said for that, instead of always creating new, which, most of us don't always get everything perfect the first time. So having that opportunity to give, a piece of content, the kind of, as I call it, the second bite of the cherry, is really powerful and often improves it.
Yeah, and I think, and I know in my mind, and I presume we will come across this as well, is that having a view to create content over areas of your expertise also clarifies your ideas on those areas of expertise. And you get better at communicating those things on an ad hoc basis, because you've spent the time and energy to create your first little draft of these things, and that clarifies your ideas around these things. That generally, if you're trying to speak ad hoc, your ideas, but you can go off a little tangents that you've done by creating the content. Do you find that as well?
Yeah, actually, so funny enough, I've blogged for many years, and I've always referred to my blogging as my CPD. If you work in like a big corporate, or you're part of an association, you sometimes need to do prove your continuing professional development. And obviously, working for myself, I don't necessarily have any onus to do that, but I always refer to my blogging as that. So yes, it's a great marketing exercise. There are SEO benefits for the website and all of that, but actually I do it for myself, for my own learning, because I sort of consider, if I can write about 1,000 words on a subject, probably know what I'm talking about. And similarly with an old blog, if I'm going back through and go, hang on, are the trends still the same? Is this advice still correct? And go off and do my own research and make sure. And sometimes it's like, oh yeah, that's good, that still stands. But often or not, digital marketing moves so quickly. It does need an update and it does need a change, but it's just a great way of me keeping on top of the key sort of areas of digital marketing and making sure that, my advice, whether it's in a club session or directly to a client or in a blog, is actually up to date. And it's a wonderful way, I feel like, for me, is that sort of how I use blogging, which could just be seen as another marketing activity. It sort of has an extra layer for me of that kind of continuing professional development.
I love that. I love that idea, and I love the. I'm also very, very keen on ensuring that we keep ourselves fresh. The sharpening the saw habit of Stephen Covey sort of thing. It's a great way of doing it, and you're right, very much spending some time writing content, it does give you that opportunity to do your sharpening of the saw. And I love the term, or CPD, that's a continual professional development that we all need to do every so often. I've done my 20 hours. I'm still a professional. But yeah, no. So and also, I would imagine that's a nice reframe of what you're trying to do as well, keeping yourself fresh as well as exploring these ideas in front of other people as well.
Yeah, definitely. I often talk about the content treadmill, and the content treadmill can be on a gradient that is really, steep and tough and hard, or it really can be flat as a pancake and just a really nice, easy walk. And so if we can find ways, whether it's, blogging because of a CPD element or a joy element, creating videos and talking to other people because, that is part of the joy and you're learning, even though it works, it's just a wonderful way to make that. And I say, getting down to 2 posts a week and finding that really easy, again, another lovely way where suddenly this content treadmill that we can't step off as business owners, unfortunately, we have to keep going. We have to keep promoting ourselves, not always just on social media, by the way. I'm very supportive of people that would rather use other platforms or mediums or whatever. But in most cases, we need to do something, and we need to do it on a continual basis. So let's make it as easy and as flat as possible.
Absolutely. One other area I wanted to touch when you're talking about the content treadmill, which can feel quite draining, is your work on the Mental Health in Small Business Conference. I'm intrigued to hear a little bit more about that.
So this is a really lovely addition to my business, and it's one of those that I'm sure some business coaches are like, what is she doing? She's a content writer, she does marketing, she runs this content club. What on earth has mental health got to do with any of it? And actually, like you've just highlighted straight away, you're like, yeah, as a small business owner, it's tough, whether it's the marketing, whether it's the strategy, whether it's the looking at the financials, and all of that. It can be really hard. And basically, I set up a mental health and small business one-day conference with a very good friend of mine who is a qualified counsellor and psychotherapist, and another fellow business owner who is also a coach, but also in his kind of day job, as he calls it, he's also a mental health first aider. And things like that. So together, the three of us basically got together because we were talking about when you work, and going back to the corporate world, you have these wellness days. You have mental health first aiders, as mentioned. You may have, I forget this right now, I think it's an employee assistant program, an EAP. So, every employee has this kind of mental health provision. And we were talking about it, and I just looked, I was like, well, what do we get? A small what are we meant to do? And basically, we're meant to do it all ourselves, right? We're meant to go out and find those contacts when we don't feel great. We're meant to come up with strategies to recognize burnout or whatever it might be. And so we were talking about getting into corporates and supporting, these kind of wellness days and things like that. And I basically put it to my co-organizers, Sharon and Adrian, said, why can't we for us? Why can't you do this for us? And that's where it was born. So down in Basingstoke, just outside Basingstoke, Test Valley Golf Club, we run a mental health and small business one-day conference where I bring together loads of small business owners to talk about mental health, wellness, what it's like being a business owner and the pressures of that, and mixed in are mental health professionals as well. And the idea is very much that it's not about mental health professionals standing up and telling us what we should do. Take more breaks, have a bath, light a candle. It's not about that. It's about the reality of saying, well, hang on, what can we achieve while still running our businesses, while still doing all of the other stuff that we have to do? We can't just stop. In most cases, we can't just, always it certainly feels like we can't always just put ourselves first, So yeah, it's all about discussing that. And the format is that we have 3 panels, very similar to BBC Question Time, as I call it. So the idea is we sort of have 4 experts that can share. They're either experts in mental health, but all fellow small business owners. They can share their expertise and answer questions. But also we very much invite people, the rest of the delegates at the conference to have their say, to ask further questions of the panelists. And then in amongst all of that, we also have a roundtable discussions and networking, in that kind of sense of we have nice long coffee breaks and a lunch break so that you can talk to each other. And then we have a small number of exhibitors as well. So there are places that you can go and talk to people who, the idea being that, you then have them in the back of your mind, noted down in your welcome pack or what have you, so that if in future you do need extra support, and that support can come in so many different guises, it's not always counselling or a yoga session, or it might be that actually we talked about, getting an accountant. It might be that actually now is the time to get that VA or outsourcing, or go and join a networking group because actually it's loneliness and you feel like you need that sense of community. So they're there as well as everyone else in the room that you can network and get to know to help as well in the 365 days between the next conference. We'll all be there to support you again.
And that's an absolutely great idea, and you're so right. And it's one of the challenges when you run a small business, and we talk about it so much in the work that I do, is that you move away from because so many people come from a corporate environment of some kind and then run your own business for whatever reason. They forget of all the benefits they have and all the things that they get from being in a team, being in a community. All of a sudden now they're and this is where you help in your thing. They're the social media marketer. They're the finance director. They're the HR director. All these kind of other hats that they have to wear, and no one supports them with this. So.
Exactly.
Wellness is a big issue. I mean, we everyone talks about, you need to look after yourself, go for a walk, like you said, go for a walk, take a breath, have a cup of coffee, all this kind of stuff that you've got to do. But if you're deep in amongst it and you've got a deadline to meet, you've got some stuff to do for your customer, or you're doing stuff that you have to do for content or whatever, then it's hard to do that. And knowing and again, this is another partial reason for why I'm doing what I do here in the halftime huddle is just to remind people you're not the only one doing it. There are loads of different ways around it, and lots of different people who are facing the same sort of challenge. And one of the things we will talk about, and we may come to it next, is the ways you support each other to get yourself from day to day to day to day to keep yourself getting up and doing the work. You may hit a tip from someone who you've talked to, or you come to your conference. You may meet someone who gives you that one tip that helps you from burning out. That one contact, that one tool, that one book to read, that one article to talk about, the one thing to do in their day. That might keep them focusing day by day, to keep them going without burning out, without etc. So yeah, there's more power to your elbow. We need more of these opportunities.
Yeah, we really do. And actually, to pick up what you were just saying, one of my favorite moments in the conference, and the two we've run already, is when someone just looks across the room and goes, "Do you feel like that as well?" Oh, really? It's that moment, like you said, that you're like, wow, I'm not alone. Oh goodness, I thought that was just me. And similarly, like you said, someone going, actually that tip, doesn't work for me, but that one does. And again, it's only when you get a group, it's the hive mind, isn't it? When you get a group of people together, and sometimes even the mental health professionals say, "Oh, try this," and then someone will go, "Well, I kind of tried that, but I tweaked it a bit and I did this instead." And again, someone else goes, "Oh yeah, that would work for me." I don't know, taking 15 minutes longer on the school run to walk home a longer way. Yes, that works for me. Whereas taking a lunchtime, having a break from your desk at lunchtime, no, and it's so simple when I say it like that, but genuinely, it's amazing how when small business owners get together and support each other, it is magic.
Absolutely, and you're so right. There are lots of different pieces of information out there. There are lots of tips and tricks out there, but you're right. Sometimes it's hearing it one way and hearing someone say, "Well, I've just done a little tweak on it because essentially the tip is about X, not the actual necessarily full process of what you're trying to do." So as long as you keep the spirit of it in doing what you're doing, then you can make a tweak if it fits your lifestyle in a better way. Then make the tweak and it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was brilliant. So when is it? Have you just
So
had
it's
one?
Monday. Yeah, so it's Monday, the 13th of October,
Yeah,
9:15 till 4:30. And as I say, it's so if you're local or you can get to Hampshire, it is just out just off the A303 at Test Valley Golf Club, just outside of Overton.
brilliant. And I will put you've sent me the links already, but I'll put the links in wherever you find this online. And do, like I said, if you're local and you can get to it, brilliant. And if you're not local and you can't get to it, then have a talk to Kate Llewellyn about maybe doing it somewhere else.
Yes, I would. Do you know what? I would actually, Mark, absolutely love that. And again, the joy of small business owner and capacity and stuff. But no, my absolute dream would be to roll this out sort of, to every county, and even possibly twice a year, I think would be wonderful. But at the moment, we sort of aim for sort of World Mental Health Day, and we're doing what we can in Hampshire. But yeah, if anyone's interested in setting it up or talking to me about what we've done, please get in touch.
Absolutely. More power to their elbow across the way. But yeah, definitely go along. And there is so much power. I mean, you talk about that in terms of the content club, having people around you who are your peers, sharing what they do, sharing their tips, helping each other and supporting each other, and it's all of the same kind of ilk. So so definitely more power to that kind of stuff. One other and we will now that I did sort of future, sort of give you a little bit of a future hint of what we're going to talk about. What is, if out of the conferences you learned and your experience, what is the one thing that you do to keep yourself day by day getting up and doing the work and the consistency of getting out there? What would you suggest is your tip for that?
Oh, so in terms of getting up and doing every day, I genuinely it sounds funny and some people find this really hard to get on board with, but it's just something that really sits with me. It's just do as much as you can of what you enjoy. I have a thing of like happiness is the highest form of success. I really struggled in my business to like set a goal, reach it, and feel happy. I'd be like, oh, I've reached it. Right now, I need to push on to the next goal, and I need to earn more money, or I need to get more clients. Whatever it was, it was it was a number, and I reach it, and then it would just be like, well, that's not enough. And I had this sort of light bulb moment, and it was like, no, if I feel happy, isn't that a really good sign? And isn't that what I went into business for and things like that? So my tip really is look at what you do day to day, and content is such a good example of that. What do you actually enjoy doing, and do more of it if you can. And if you can, whether it's get rid of, reduce, or outsource, the bits that don't bring you joy, then, do that too. And that's not always a, overnight process. I really get that. But even just setting that in motion, deciding, oh, yes, by the end of the year, perhaps I could stop doing that. Or, maybe I could transition away from that social media platform onto another, because that one I find really brings me down. So, yeah, I think for me, it's definitely that. And then on a very practical level, which I will share with you, which is if you're having a bit of a non-day when you're not really sure that but there are stuff that you just have to do. We can't always just walk away. I write a done list. So I have my to-do list, but then every time I do anything, I write it down on my done list. And this can go really granular on a bad day. Made a cup of tea, sent an email, replied, wrote a comment on LinkedIn. And it is really incredible how by just doing that, I look back and realize that, when sometimes you think, oh, I've done nothing today, actually you realize how much you do. And I am a bit of a multitasker like that. I can be sort of doing one thing for a moment, then I'll answer an email, then I'll quickly flick onto LinkedIn. And actually writing it all down is quite a really nice way to show that even perhaps if you haven't done the thing on your to-do list, maybe you did do lots of other stuff that still, it's just adding to the business.
And that's brilliant. And the thing that I love about that is you're not the first one today who has mentioned that.
Oh, really?
So I've done this. It's a brilliant idea. Like I say, having because we have a habit. You're so right to say we have a habit of thinking, oh, it's been a rubbish day, and then you look at your done list and you think, oh no, I have done more than I thought I would do.
Yeah,
It isn't quite as rubbish.
And it's sort of, I don't know, for me, it's much more powerful than just ticking something off a to-do list, because for me, always the to-do list, there's always something more, and there's always, and you often focus on what didn't get done rather than what did.
No, I love that. I love that completely. That's a great tip. And I also completely 100%. One of the beauties about doing this is some tips will fit other people, other tips will fit enemy. And the beauty about having this section in what we do is it shows that A, people are struggling the same, and B, there are lots of different ways of approaching it.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so one of the other things I wanted to mention, and for the life of me, I'm having a little bit of a challenge. We're trying to remember what it is. So what I will do is I'll go to the next bit. This is another. We talked before we went on. We hit the record button to record this. We had a little bit of conversation about what were the fixed points in this, and this is another fixed point. And this is because I love this. And it's purely for me more than well. I hope people get a lot out of it as well. And it's borrowed very heavily from Tim Ferriss in terms of books, and he twisted it around a little bit because people who most of the people I know here do this kind of businesses are avid readers from one way or another. Some of it's a mix of fiction and non-fiction, but they're very avid readers. And asking them what their favorite book is often is the book that's quite recent in their memory, or they've just read it, or in the process of reading it. Whereas switch it on its head a little bit and asking what is a book that you would recommend most often, or you have recommended, put a little bit more of a longer tail on that. And so what, spinning around to get to the answer, ask the real question. Well, which book have you recommended the most, or would you recommend to others, just as so we can have a look at it?
Sure. So asking someone with a background in publishing this question is really
I know. I thought it might be difficult. Yeah.
Can I have two? Is that allowed?
Yes, you can. Yes.
So I'll give you a fiction and a non-fiction, because I thought that was pretty fair. So my fiction book straight away, my go-to is The Dictionary of Lost Words by Pitt Williams. And it's all about a girl who is involved. Her dad actually is involved with writing the first, or putting together the first Oxford English Dictionary. And it's got a really lovely mix of obviously talking about words and where they came from, and how the whole process of the Oxford English Dictionary and James Murray and his team did it. If you have any affection for Oxford, it's set all across Oxford and all of the kind of key areas of that beautiful city. So the Dictionary of Lost Words I highly recommend. A very interesting, really interesting book. And then my second one is actually, I've been doing a lot about content confidence. So this idea that you actually feel confident in what you're putting out there. And actually, I think we all know that it starts with that confidence in yourself, let alone what you're going to write or record or what have you. So my second book is actually a really beautiful book called Coach Yourself Confident. It's by a lady called Julie Smith. And it was one of those books that when I was reading it, I just kept thinking, this lady is in my head. This is really scary. She just was talking about all these things. And what's really lovely is it's actually quite a lot of it is slightly set in a corporate setting. So if you've got that background, as well as being a small business owner, it really resonated. And it was just a lot of really simple mindset switches, if that makes sense, that you can just do. She talks a lot about the self-doubt tax, which was one she was like, basically you ask yourself, like, how much self-doubt tax are you going to put on this situation? And you just even asking your question, you end up sort of laughing to yourself and thinking, oh, I've done it again, kind of thing. And she also talks about this lovely thing called humble confidence, because I think a lot of us, we think of confidence equals arrogance, equals showing off, bragging, that kind of stuff. And it's not about that. It's about still accepting that you've got stuff to learn, that you could do better. Like we talked about with content, we could still perfect it, we can make it, but we can still be confident in that thing in the first place. So yeah, highly recommend that.
Brilliant. I love those two books. And what I like about that is that I haven't come across them myself, so it's great for me. I in the back of my mind, I'm collating a list of all the books I have, and my wish list is getting bigger and bigger. So thank you very much for that. But yeah, I know I'm sorry I put you on the spot. Which is I think why Tim has done the little twist to say recommended rather than favorite, because like I said, people who read a lot or who go in contact with books, they just love books, and a favorite book is like saying who's your favorite child. It's very difficult.
It is.
Absolutely. And so I love those. So thank you very much for that. And I've now remembered what I was going to say, and this is another term I came across this morning when listening to the radio, which resonated very much to you about finding the joy in what you were doing. And it's a thing called lemonading.
Ooh, not heard of that.
And is basically finding, it's built around the idea of when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. So if you've got something, try and find slightly different way to make things a bit more fun. So I love that. It ties into so that word ties into your tip, lemonading. Yeah. Let's make things a little bit more joyful. Try and find the joy. It also ties in, from what I would imagine, if you're enjoying it, trying to be consistent in it is easier than something you find hard work and not enjoy. So,
yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think if you find joy in anything, you're going to probably do it better. Does that mean it just flows through, doesn't it? It does flow through. I do believe in that kind of energy. Yeah,
absolutely. You're going to do it more and you're going to do it better. Very much. Yes, I love that. So thank you very much for that. We've talked about the mental health conference and small business conference, and like I said, that link will be in wherever you find this, because it'll be going to a number of different places. Where else can they find you and follow you and maybe learn more about your business, the Content Club, and everything you do? Where's the best place for people listening to this find you?
So definitely in terms of connection, I mentioned my hero social media platform. So that would be LinkedIn. So just find me under Kate Llewellyn on LinkedIn. I do have a website called www.thecontentconsultancy.com, and you'll find all information about the Content Club there. And actually, if you do head to my website at the moment, you can sign up to my new Content Confidence audio series as well, which is a nice little extra that I've added to my mailing list at the moment. So give that a try, and I'd love to know what you think.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for this. I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I say this every time, and it is very much. I've yet not mean it. Love to do this and have you come again, because we could talk for ages, and I'm conscious that we've already talked for almost an hour, which is brilliant.
No, I totally agree. Thank you. It's been really, really great. And I'm sure we've got loads more to cover.
We have, yes. So to look out for Kate, do say hi, and definitely check out the mental health conference. Like I said, if the location is not brilliant for you, then do talk to Kate and see whether you can do something else in your local area, because mental health in small businesses is definitely something that needs to be addressed, because there are so many businesses that burn out because they don't have the support, they don't have people around them, and these are businesses that we all need.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.